So this is the brand new 2025 ASUS G14 with an RTX 5070 Ti, and I purposely waited for this model because I don't think the 5080 is good value, and going anything lower just won't give you the performance that this 5070 Ti is capable of delivering. Now, if you're coming from an older G14, this will be the upgrade to get, but if you're coming from last year's version, you might be tempted as well because there is a big difference in terms of performance. But here's the thing though. You literally can't tell the difference between last year's model and this one by looking at them. Side by side, there is no way to tell the difference, and that's fine. I still think it's a fairly good looking laptop, but there is one way to tell the difference if you open it up. The previous model, you had a total of 4 stickers on the keyboard deck. On this version, there's only 3. The Energy Star sticker got the axe. If you don't pay the sticker guy, you don't play. That's just the way things work. I don't care how environmentally friendly you are, the sticker guy does not care. You gotta pay if you wanna play. But in terms of design, we're talking about a laptop that's still fairly light at 1.57 kilograms. It feels good in the hand. You've got a metal chassis. You've got the Anime Matrix little slash across the back, which is much more tasteful than the crazy Anime Matrix you'd find on those strict Scar models. I think this is a little bit more subtle. You can keep it off and it still looks fairly classy. Of course, you have the ROG branding, and because this is a silver or white model, it doesn't pick up as many fingerprints. You also have the same sort of port configuration with the lighting on the back and the Zephyrus branding. On the left-hand side, you have your proprietary connector. It comes with a 200-watt charging brick, HDMI 2.1 port, your USB Type-C port. This one is USB 4.0, USB-A port, and your combo audio jack. On the other side, you have another USB Type-C port, but this one is not 4.0. There's another USB-A port and a micro SD card slot. Now, my only gripe is I wish it came with a full-size SD card slot instead of a micro, hopefully for the next one. And yes, you can charge this laptop with a 100-watt GAN charger. Just know that you won't get the same performance as the original brick that comes with the laptop. But the one thing that always made this laptop stand out was the gorgeous display. It's the same display as the previous model. You're looking at a 3K display, 2880 by 1800 OLED display at 16 by 10. You have the same color accuracy, the exact same color gamut, and the exact same high refresh rate of 120 Hertz. The display is gorgeous. It's very pixel dense. Everything you look at on it just pops. Now, there is no fingerprint scanner embedded into the power button, but you do have an IR sensor beside the camera, and that allows you to do Windows Hello facial recognition to quickly log you in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's what your webcam looks like. You tell me how it looks. It's 1080p. Tell me how the microphone sounds, and yeah, that's about it here. And just like the previous G14, you have the exact same 4-speaker setup. You got 2 on the bottom, and then you have 2 on the top. It just sounds fantastic. As for the keyboard, it's still the same clicky, good actuation, good travel distant keys you're used to. They feel fantastic to type on. I really dig this keyboard. In fact, it's one of my favorite keyboards to use. You have these nice, fairly big arrow keys. Now, they did replace the control key, the right control key, with a co-pilot key, but obviously, if you want, you can rebind it to something else in Windows. Windows Copilot is here for good people. We just have to accept it. The color shifting between the keyboard deck and the keys is still there. It's really hard to match the metal alloy when you're using plastic key tops, but at least it doesn't have that yellow tinge compared to the G14 from a few years ago. The touchpad is still glass, and it's big enough even though it's kind of crammed onto the bottom, and it feels fantastic to use. But the biggest upgrade to this laptop is the jump from the 4070 to the 5070 Ti. I gotta take off my glasses for this because that's how big of a difference there is. And look, the 5070 Ti, hands down, does provide the best bang for your buck. The CPU got an upgrade to the HX 370. Now, this is not as drastic as the GPU jump, but it definitely helps. When you're talking about single core performance, you're looking at a 10% more performance improvement over the previous generation. In terms of multi-core performance, we're looking at a 21% performance increase compared to last generation's AMD CPU, but only about a 10% increase compared to the Intel chip inside the G16. Now, if you're browsing the net and using web-based applications like you do in school, you're looking at a 9% performance increase compared to last year's G14. But if you're a Premiere Pro user or video editor, this thing crushes it, beating out the G16 with a 4080 by 15%. Photoshop is a similar story. All these computers handled it great. Now, compiling code is a little bit different because even though technically the HX 370 is a faster and more efficient chip, the older 8945HS does a better job compiling since it maintains a higher average core clock speed for a little bit longer. But enough about the CPU. We gotta talk about the GPU, all right? And look, this GPU, in Time Spy, we see a 19% performance increase over the RTX 4070 and an 8% performance increase over the 2024 Blade 14. Steel Nomad, which is much more GPU intensive, shows a 27% performance increase compared to the G14 from 2024. In Blender Benchmark, you're looking at an 8% increase compared to last year's RTX 4080 inside the G16. Now remember, this is a 4080 that's not properly being powered, but a massive 22% performance increase compared to the RTX 4070. But gaming is where the magic happens, and the massive difference comes in gaming itself. You have to remember, the previous G14 topped at 90 watts. This new RTX 5070 Ti is boosting up to 110 watts and has 12 gigabytes of VRAM instead of 8. More power equals better performance. And you clearly see that in all the games I'm playing. There is a massive performance jump going from that RTX 4070 in the G14 to this new 2025 RTX 5070 Ti. Also, it is more efficient, so it runs a little bit cooler compared to the G14 from last year. Now, fan noise is going to be just as loud as the previous version, but it does take a couple seconds longer for the fans to ramp up just because the efficiency is slightly better. Now look, for those of you who are into the new multi-frame generation options that are available with the 50 series, you get to take advantage of 2 times, 3 times, and 4 times frame generation, literally tripling your performance in some games. In Black Myth Wukong, I was really able to amp up the FPS to get better performance, and that's fine. I don't mind doing it in Black Myth Wukong, or even in the new Doom, or other heavy intensive games where it's first person or RPG. But games like first person shooters, I'm not using frame generation because having low latency is much more important in esports titles. Now internally, there is one little change compared to the 4070 model. There's only 2 fans inside of here. If you guys don't remember, on my previous review from last year, there was a 3rd fan that was located over here. From what I understand is the HX 370 and this new 50 series GPU is more efficient. You just don't need that extra fan inside. You still have your swappable Wi-Fi card. This one is Wi-Fi 7. You do have your NVMe SSD. If you want something bigger, you can obviously place a bigger one inside of here. Now, the battery is 73 watt hours, and look, it does get good battery life. In fact, I got a little bit less compared to the G14 from last year, but it wasn't a drastic difference. So here's the bottom line. The ASUS G14, the 2025 version, may have not received a massive redesign or huge internal changes, but it did receive some small refinements that make it a better product overall. More importantly, the RTX 5070 Ti is such a good GPU that I feel like the 5080 is wasted space inside this laptop. You're paying like $600 or $700 more for slightly more performance, but you're not really going to be able to push that 5080 since the TGP is not high enough. And as soon as you go down to the 5060, it's fine, but you're just missing out on that extra performance that the 5070 Ti provides. Plus, you only get 8 gigabytes of VRAM instead of 12. Honestly, if you're buying this laptop today, save your money, get the 5070 Ti version because it's the model to get. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.